Hello, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm outside Old Trafford. It's a lovely day in Manchester, early November, a bit of chill in the air, but lots to discuss. I want to talk about this absolute nonsense around Donny van der Beek, which I think is just subtle targeting of Erik ten Hag. But we're here with the latest news. I want to talk about the club behind me as well and this Liverpool thing I was on about last night. But let's talk about the latest news. That's what we're here to discuss. So Goal, who's a journalist we've mentioned from Germany quite a few times, he's got a few updates for us. I also want to talk about Jonathan David and a potential £40 million bargain that Manchester United could secure in January, another target we could look at. So Goal is saying that Manchester United's priority signing next summer is Jude Bellingham. Obviously Goal is a journalist based in Germany, Bundesliga, Dortmund, also in Germany. £150 million Euro bid. This is a player that Erik ten Hag wants, that Manchester United have scouted extensively and would be a major target for Manchester United in the summer. However, Goal does go on to say that with the interest of Real Madrid and Liverpool, it would be a difficult deal for Manchester United to do. I think it's a deal that you've got to look at. I think Jude Bellingham in that midfield alongside Casemiro would certainly bring the steel that I think we need. Big fan of Eriksen, but as I've said, I really do like Eriksen. In no way am I saying that Eriksen is a problem for Manchester United. I just think that Eriksen and Casemiro in the bigger games or the away games, it's too much work for Casemiro, and we saw it at the weekend. Eriksen doesn't win the defensive duels. He's not an interceptor. He's a creative. He's a person where you dictate the play, and in the Premier League sometimes you've got to go and battle, and I think Casemiro needs someone else in there. And Jude Bellingham and Casemiro as a midfield too would be fantastic. Do I think Man United will try? Yes, I think a club like Manchester United will always try. Do I think Manchester United can do a deal like that? I don't think we can. Look, we couldn't get Camavinga, we couldn't get Tchouaméni, they went to Real Madrid. If Real Madrid want Bellingham, not only is it the aura of Real Madrid, it's the size of Real Madrid, it's the fact that they're going to fight for Champions Leagues. And then Liverpool, I wouldn't normally think that Liverpool could beat Manchester United to someone like Bellingham, even with their recent success. But they have got good connections with Dortmund and Jurgen Klopp. They do have the Champions League football. But if there was a scenario where Liverpool dropped out the top four and Manchester United did get top four and Ten Hag showed the progression he's shown in the short time already, I think Bellingham could come to Manchester United. The big overarching issue there is, and we spoke about it last night and I was listening to it on the Radio Up, I heard David Ornstein talking about it this morning on Talk Sport, this Liverpool sale is genuine. Now, wherever this Liverpool sale is genuine, that is a major threat to Manchester United, because whether it's FSG realising it's time to cash out, they bought the club for 300 million, they can sell it for 4 billion, or whether it's about getting investment in so that they compete with the likes of Manchester City, as soon as Liverpool join that elite like Newcastle and Man City, then they can buy the Jude Bellinghams. And I said this last night and I'll say it again, and we're outside the club now, we can protest about dividends, we can protest about debt, but actually, even if the Glazers didn't put us in debt, even if the Glazers didn't take dividends, they cannot compete with nation club states like Manchester City and Newcastle. And this, I believe, is why Liverpool are looking to sell, because they're looking to bring money in to be able to compete. So can Manchester United buy Jude Bellingham? Maybe. What percentage would I give it? 20%? Because I just don't think we can compete anymore for those type of players when there is competition for them. That the elite players, you can go and spend, you can overspend on Anthony. No one else wanted to do it. You can go and get Bruno for 60 million. No one else really wanted to do it. You can get Sancho for 74 million. No one else really wanted to do it. But can you go and buy Jude Bellingham? Can you go and buy Erling Haaland when loads of other clubs want to do it? I'm encouraged that United are interested. I'm not writing it off, but it's a very difficult deal to do. And I would just hammer home that this Liverpool sale is genuine. And that puts us even further behind. And this is why we need the Glazers to think like FSG and think it's time to cash out. You've had your slice of meat. You've milked the cow. Cash in. The profit they would make would be huge. It's time to go. In a business sense, it's time for them to go and cash out, and it's time for us to move forward as a football club. The player I was going to lead on is Jonathan David. I was reading a story yesterday that Jonathan David, the Canadian striker, I think currently at Lille, isn't he? Apparently scored quite a few goals this season. He's a player that many of you have mentioned before. He's available for about £40 million. I can't remember what his contract situation is, but £40 million for a striker from the French league is probably about right. There's a bit of a queue for him. There's a few clubs that quite like him, and he's a name that we've mentioned in the past. To be honest with you, I would welcome Manchester United looking to buy Jonathan David as a bargain £40 million signing in January. I don't particularly care who we go for, as long as we go for somebody. I think we've seen at the weekend tiredness. I was just speaking to a fan there. They were asking me about United, and I said, look, I'm disappointed about the Villa game, but I'm not shocked. We are tired. We do need more depth. You do need to look at the bench and go, you've got a striking option. I'm interested to have a good look at Jonathan David in the World Cup. And I know the World Cup's not the best place to assess players, but I do think it will be an opportunity to have a good look at him, because the French league's very difficult to gauge as well. But ultimately, it's not about who we get, whether it's Ivan Toney, Cody Gakpo, Jonathan David, Schick, or whoever else. It's about who Ten Hag wants. I think what he's shown in the summer is that he must be trusted to go and get the players that he wants. Martinez has been a revelation. I believe Anthony will be a good signing. Eriksen's been fantastic. I think Malacia is going to be a good signing in the future. Casemiro, a very obvious signing, but has been world class for us. So I would be trusting Ten Hag on whoever he decides. I'm not the fan, and I don't think we need to be the fan base that starts dictating or shouting, we need to get this player, that player. We must always have an opinion, but the main thing is that Ten Hag is supported. And if Jonathan David's available for £40 million, that's a very good deal for a striker. Let's have a look at him. Let's see what he's all about. So I'd be very interested to see what happens with that. Potentially not the striker that many of you want, but I do believe that he is a player that is well worth a look at that price. And it's interesting that he's coming back into the equation again. But yeah, I would hammer home that it's just really important that we are buying in January. I just want to mention this, actually. I sort of touched on it the other day about Donny van der Beek. Listening to a couple of podcasts, reading a few articles this morning, and I'm going to throw it out there. I actually can't believe some of the rhetoric there is around Donny van der Beek. I don't know where it's coming from. It's I wouldn't say it's vile or abusive, but it's odd in its nature. It's like, he shouldn't be playing for Manchester United. Erik Ten Hag's the only manager in the world that would have picked him at the weekend. It was a naive mistake and he'll never do it again. Donny van der Beek isn't even good enough to be on the bench. And this is paid journalists talking about this, not to mention what's on social media. And I'm somewhat lost as to where this has come from. Van der Beek's been out injured for most of the season. He's come back for the last 2 games. It's not been good. But I actually feel that Van der Beek is getting targeted, not because he's Donny van der Beek. I actually think it's this subtle I wanted Pochettino, not Ten Hag thing, where journalists journalists or ex-players or even certain fans, they know if they have a pop at Ten Hag, they're going to get absolutely buried. So they're almost finding a way to take a pop at Ten Hag in an indirect way. Because I don't understand the Donny van der Beek thing. I've always said, I'd like to see him being given more time. I've never seen any player of Manchester United treated the way Donny van der Beek has been treated in the last couple of days in relation to why is he being picked for Manchester United, he shouldn't even be on the bench. I mean, we've watched McFred for a year, so it's not like he's the first bad player to play for Manchester United. I do also think that Erik Ten Hag is the manager, and if he sees something in Donny van der Beek, I hope he keeps picking him, because I trust the manager. But I also feel that it's beyond logic why he's being targeted in the way he is. And maybe some of you haven't noticed it, but I certainly have. I consume a lot of things, whether it's podcasts, social media, articles. And the way that Donny van der Beek has been written off and spoken about, I find it amazing, absolutely amazing. And I actually, when I find things that amaze me, I have to find the angle. And I think the angle is, this is people who deep down didn't want Ten Hag, who know that you can't take a pop at Ten Hag, so are using things like, you can't pick Donny. Nobody would pick Donny van der Beek. You can't pick Donny van der Beek. Well, he can pick Donny van der Beek, because guess what? He's the manager of Manchester United. And if you're behind the manager, then you don't start going, he can't do that. That was stupid. That was naive. Well, you're not behind the manager then, are you? I mean, are we not a team that didn't have Bruno Fernandes at the weekend? Are we not a team that's knackered? Now, I would have put Fred next to Casemiro and played Eriksen at number 10. I think that's a good idea to do that. But beyond that, the only logical thing to do was actually start Donny van der Beek. So it wasn't as out there crazy as people think it was. It didn't work. I wouldn't be writing Donny off. But even if we are writing Donny, why are we writing Donny off, by the way? But even if we are writing Donny off, let the manager write him off. And I said a few weeks ago, for me, there's a 75% chance that Donny van der Beek won't be a Man United player in a year's time. I think it's coming towards the end. I think you've got to give him an opportunity, and I think Eric has given him an opportunity. And if it is to be the end, it is to be the end. But yeah, I do feel that there is a little bit of a... I actually do feel that there is a bit of a Ten Hag, and I'm not going to go over old ground because I mentioned it last night, but I do feel that there is a bit of a Ten Hag sort of mistrust in certain areas of the media, and maybe they will start to target him a little bit more, but obviously I don't think that's going to happen with the fan base at all. Yeah, and as I said, yeah, it's interesting. We've got this Villa game on Thursday at Old Trafford, and I think we need to prioritise the game against Fulham next Sunday, and then use this World Cup break intelligently. I mean, we'll be talking about this a lot more over the coming weeks, but this transfer window cannot be ignored by Manchester United. There's always a negative, but I think there's a positive. Newcastle are not going away. They're in the top 4 already. They're going to spend. They don't play in Europe. They're a top 4 threat. Arsenal and Man City have got top 4. I think Liverpool are coming back. Well, there's your top 4. Chelsea are going to spend. They're a threat for top 4. Maybe Spurs start playing better football. Maybe they could get top 4. We absolutely cannot. And the game with Barcelona in February just makes our season even harder. If we're looking to try and win the Europa League and get top 4, which has to be the priorities, not the Carabao Cup, not the FA Cup, then we've got to use this next 6 weeks that you don't normally get to use the January transfer window as a mini summer transfer window. You've got to be looking to get 2 or 3 players out and 2 or 3 players in. So I'm intrigued to see what United are going to do, because if they really are planning on sitting on their hands and doing nothing, I think then we are almost saying that we're potentially writing the season off. I think it is absolutely huge. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Nice to be up in Manchester, lovely weather. Hope you all have a good day. We'll be back with the preview at 2 o'clock for the Villa game. Some big changes I think Ten Hag has to make in that. Get your comments in below. What's your thoughts about Jude Bellingham? Can we do those sort of deals? How big is this Liverpool sale? Because it's going to happen, and it's going to push us further into oblivion, in my opinion. Jonathan David, is that a player that we should be looking at? Is £40 million a bargain? And what do you think about this Van der Beek thing? Is there a bit of an overreaction? Is it just a subtle way to take start chipping away at Ten Hag early doors for some of these media outlets? Maybe I've got it wrong. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like. I'll speak to you all soon.